In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Tariq Masood. Thank you very much for watching my videos and your wonderful support to make this channel a grand success. We are a partner. Please subscribe and share our channel if you haven't done so far. We as a team can work together to convert challenges into opportunities and opportunity into success stories. These success stories can be monetized into value addition. Thank you very much again for your precious time. Okay, today we are going to discuss challenge for organization model, introduction chapters, lecture number 2, uncertain victory, bureaucracy and change. So before my lecture, I used to read a Quranic verse, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli Rabbi zidni ilma. Okay, please remember I have given different references of these lectures. You may read additional materials as mentioned in my last slide. Thank you very much again. Now I'm going to run a complete trail on my lecture number 2 on a challenge for organization model. Okay. Challenge for organization, customer victory, bureaucracy, looking for bureaucracies, change yes, but why? So challenge for organizations, we have discussed in lecture number 1, what is the change, and cost of uncontrolled change become intolerable. These two topics we have discussed in lecture number 1. Today we are going to discuss lecture number 2. We are still on introduction stage here. And on my next slide, I'm going to give a key takeaway points from lecture number 2. Okay, first, trying to control the events. Second, importance of knowledge and knowledge sharing. These are 3 elements we are going to discuss today. Okay, challenge for organization, customer victory, bureaucracy, bureaucracy, changes, but why and what? So the first topic, uncertain world, we are going to discuss here. So what is basically uncertain world? It has different segments. Let's set the scene. Confidence crisis, Middle Age or Mad Max, the American model, many words for a single disease, escaping the crisis in a different way, ferality of the dragons. Next, customer victory, what is demonstrated in the customer victory here. So in customer victory, from a scarce product to the scarce customer, hazard of the segmentation, how not to listen, the case of British catering company, get off the beaten track. Then we discuss how human resource management as essential, contribute to the customer victory. Number 3 topic here, what is bureaucracy basically? So the story of an evolutions, Taylor or the soul, rationality, Professor his map and the bureaucracy. So we'll also put some comparative analysis, airline and automobile industry. So everybody else how they demonstrate. Then we also discuss integration and cost cutting. And the last, we'll also discuss less spending on more corporations. Okay, number 3 here, our theme of bureaucracy, task segmentation. The better a teacher you are, the less you teach. Client held hostage. So the second here is new economy, old bureaucracy, coordination and cooperation. Number 4 here, change yes, but why? What change? Changing a winning team. Theoretical debate to centralize or to decentralize, change by acting on structures, the declaration of a good tax conduct, formal organization and real organization, change through play on attitude, the negative attitude of inspectors or how they demonstrate the different aspects. That is final lectures on challenge for organization. Okay, seeking reassurance or try to control the events. Okay, intermediates changes. What is basically for over the Addendum Elements, action for change, create a business prospect. This is what creates business for the consulting firm, and one can understand that the more urgent need is for change. Okay, basically what it demonstrates, when faced with the addendum element of any actions for a change, so what could happen brings a smile to the face of all those who are intermediaries of change. Okay, those whose work rather like that pediatricians consist of reassuring anxious mother even before treating their children. In other words, reassuring manager before doing anything at all. This is what creates, okay, business of the consult firm, and one can understand that the more urgent the need is for the change, the more their market expand and the more their involvement increases. After all, as I mentioned, after all, the primary function of such involvement is to legitimize what has been done, to release the manager from all our part of the responsibility which finally has no price. Okay, on my next slide, we will discuss what is the importance to acknowledgement. Okay, now the important to acknowledgement. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge that resorting to such a function of intermediations is a first step. Okay, the first step which is indicating what? That there is an awareness of the need to make things evolve, for the temptation often so remains to do things, to shield oneself, to wait for the storms to pass over, and to cover up with opposition to progress. So with an impressive smoke screens of sophisticated action plan, so skillfully prioritize a project focus groups, survey and work, in brief, substituting agitations for actions until the process itself becomes paralyzed and lose its an uncontrollable meandering about which after a while nobody worries anymore. So when it's meandering here, so the about after a while nobody's worried anymore how the things could happen. Okay, in this workshop we will demonstrate a major European transport company, which in the way will serve as a guiding thread in this model. Okay, is a living example of this, confronted with increasing vigorously intermodal competitions, but at the same time a prisoner of imprisoned conservatism finally shared by its manager as much as by the union organization. It initiated over 50 priorities as demonstrated in my. Okay, it demonstrates the priorities programs. So the different priorities programs which put end to end from the business project first here, then evident oppositions are great certifications. So what it demonstrates here, that trying up considerable energy, time, money and so on, but at the end of the day producing only evident oppositions to progress, and this is to great certification for all those involved. It is hard to do nothing while moving about so much. So that is, you will achieve the great certifications. Okay, so on my next slide here, okay, now point of another work here. So it demonstrates non-event known as a change here. First a point of another work here, and then another stone of this this is the ambient discussions, conservatisms and characterizations. So the first he demonstrated why add another stone to its edifice so hopeless or well splintered together, depending on the angle from which it is viewed. Can such model aim for a result other than simultaneously providing a food for ambient discussions here and conservatisms? So that is how it demonstrates providing food for thought for ambient discussions and conservatism. Certainly, for when looks closely, one finds a few examples of successful change. So one of their characteristics. So when it changed that those who conducted them did not seek to control everything nor indeed manage everything. but instead accepting uncertainties and finally did not consider it absolutely essential to know where they were going to in order to get there. Maybe they had no choice, but whether or not they were successful, there's always a something to be learned and adopted from their approaches. One can start with something that they themselves point out, the joining the ranks of some of the how it can happen. They have begged on knowledge. They did not want to hide from reality. At the same time, thus they want to share such knowledge with those who are most concerned by change at their workforce. Okay. On my next slide, we will going to discuss again. Next is the import of knowledge and knowledge sharing. Okay, imports of knowledge. First, thinking method, non-conformity. Now we will use our one Air France model here. So in saying that, one cannot help thinking of Air France between 1993-1998. There is one CEO mentioned here. What is mentioned? A famous method which took its name from their CEOs. We will be using that case a great deal in these models, methods, non-conformity, and approach in this model here. So what it's mentioned here, the one cannot help being struck by how non-conformist and unusual this approach appears in relation to our way of thinking, our education, and our habits. Confronting a reality, seeking things as they really are and not just as one would like them to be, in other words, listening. Okay, so that is how it demonstrated here. So this is disturbing for managers who are there because they are supposed to know more than others about how things are happening, how they must be, and how to achieve this. Such acceptance of reality, as shown over here, what is the acceptance of realities, shows modesty and boldness, both of which have to be learned. So that is how the happening in the first part of the importance of the knowledge. On my next slide, we'll demonstrate here the knowledge cannot be spontaneously. Okay, now we're going to discuss knowledge cannot be spontaneous. Okay, what we demonstrate here, three different segments. First, remarkable, precipitations, presupposes, and quantitative. Okay, first what we demonstrate here, see, unless by exception, which is all the more remarkable for being an exceptions, to be successful, this requires time but not precipitations, agitation, or hyperactivity. It needs a true intellectual investment which presupposes or learning and mastering a new ways of reasoning, usually very different from those taught in our elites. Whichever schools or university they attended and whichever side of the Atlantic they find themselves on, as we have mentioned, usually are very different from those taught in our elites, whichever schools or university they have attended and whichever side of the Atlantic they find themselves. Okay, so it also means particularly it took their agreement to do without the models, quantitative organizations behavior and so on, which gives reassurance but also block the view and impede listening. It's not at all surprising that each of us seeks to connect that part of reality that confronts us to wasters who that is already known. In stressful situations like those which demand the implementation of change, this reduced uncertainty and allowed the use of solution which tried and tested in their circumstances that appears to be similar. So if this is the case, then what is happening here? The experience teaches us that we must listen. It does not tell us what we must hear. So that is how it's knowledge cannot be spontaneously, as we have discussed importance of the knowledge. On my next slide, we will discuss how to share the knowledge. Okay, now we're going to discuss importance of knowledge sharing. So what is basically a knowledge sharing? We'll demonstrate here. The knowledge sharing of first, it has different segments. So that is unusual experiences, approach, investment in knowledge, then industrial world, and what industrial worlds to need a specialist and experts, and then work predictable, independence, good intentions, even worst and bad and unworthy trust. Okay. Now, what basically we will let it return to this more in effective ways is an even more unusual experience, since it is predispose a trust and approach which is unfamiliar to our organization as an investment in knowledge. Okay, since the industry world became the industry world, that is when work was no longer described by the poets but analyzed and organized by the specialists and experts as mentioned here. Okay, so what it's basically demonstrated that the efforts have been immense and continue toward reducing inherent uncertainty in human behaviors, from rules to organization, from recommendation to procedures. Everything is done to make what people do at work first predictable and above all independent. So then what I have to do next? There are good intentions. What is the good intentions? Or even worse, they are arbitrary natures. Okay, good and even worse for the arbitrary nature. Okay, so principally it also explained here, so basically never more than in a business have people been judged as so fundamentally bad and unworthy of trust. It's all the rhetoric on resistance to change, which is so marked in 1970-1980 and which served as a windbreak to the ultra-conservatism of the good numbers of managers, so how they can behave in order to deliver the objective. So on my next slide, we will demonstrate a people behavior, how they can demonstrate behavior toward a change. Then what is the people behavior? Okay, people behavior that is impose, margin maneuverance, then resistance to change, and watch carefully. Okay, but who are these peoples who would not like a change, so it's necessary to impose it on them and to watch carefully that they do exactly what they are supposed to do. It's not particularly important that they know why they are being asked to change. They are just expected to apply the new instructions to come to go, to follow, and then everything will be all right. Okay, as mentioned in the arbitrary cares, if one understands that an organization is first and foremost a structure of a human behavior of rational strategies, as we might discuss in these lectures, one can understand that actors will only agree to modify these behavior if one shares with them the necessity for change. So this also mentioned that this is possible to propose an approach here with modesty makes it possible to tackle the problems outlined above, those of knowledge and trust. It's also mentioned that under pressure from the customer, they need to reappraise, often urgently, their norms ways of the functionality. So that is my last slide on importance of knowledge and knowledge sharing. Okay, conclusion. We have discussed reassuring managers before doing things at all, to understand the needs for change, priorities, action program, intermediates of change, important of knowledge and knowledge sharing, and people behavior. Okay, on my next slide, next topic, using a strategic analysis for an organizations. Our next lecture we will discuss only strategic analysis for on an organization. These are my references. You may read more materials related to this lecture. Thank you very much for your precious time. Please don't hesitate. Send me your feedback and comments. t.masood.dear@path.edu. Thank you very much again. Please stay at home, stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you very much again.